We hear a lot about our ancient ancestors, right? And usually the story is about a simple, rugged diet, just survival. But what if the real First Supper was way more sophisticated than that? In this explainer, we are going to unmask a menu that's going to challenge pretty much everything you think you know about ancient eating.
Okay, so you've seen it all over social media, right? The ancestral diet, the caveman diet, all promising to get us back to our primal roots. The whole idea usually revolves around, hunting mammoths and picking a few berries, but what does the actual science, the hard archaeological evidence, really have to say about all that?
And this really gets to the heart of it. It's the myth versus the reality. On one side, you have this pop culture idea of a grunting caveman gnawing on a slab of meat. But then, look at what the science is actually finding. I mean, a menu that sounds, well, pretty gourmet. We're talking sourdough bread, probiotic cheese, and even fine wine. It's a huge difference.
All right, so let's do this. Let's go on a little culinary journey back in time. We're going to build this ancient menu piece by piece, course by course, using some absolutely incredible discoveries from all over the world. And trust me, you are probably going to be surprised. So our first stop is a place called Çatalhöyük, which is in modern-day Turkey. And you got to understand this wasn't just some small camp. This was a massive, sprawling proto-city. We're talking thousands of people living here at its peak. It's literally one of the places where civilization was being cooked up. And as you're about to see, that's not just a clever metaphor.
Now, let's just let this date sink in for a second. 6600 BCE. That's 8,600 years ago. To put that in perspective, this is thousands of years older than the Great Pyramids of Giza. We are looking into a truly ancient kitchen.
And how they found this is like something out of a detective novel. So picture this. Archaeologists are digging in an old mud brick house. They find a destroyed oven, and right next to it, this weird, spongy little lump. So they take it back to the lab, get out the high-powered microscopes, and the verdict comes in. It was unmistakable. They were looking at ancient dough.
Now here's the really cool part. This wasn't just, some paste of flour and water. The analysis showed tiny air bubbles trapped inside. That means it had been fermented, it had risen. And what was in it? Wheat, barley, and even peas. It's wild to think about. Someone, 8,600 years ago, was in the middle of baking and got interrupted, leaving behind the oldest piece of bread in the world for us to find.
Okay, so you can't have good bread without something to go with it, right? For our next course, we're going to jump forward a few thousand years and head way out east to the Çatalhöyük Cemetery in China. And believe me, another huge culinary mystery was waiting there.
Seriously, just try to imagine you're the archaeologist who discovers this. You find these incredibly well-preserved mummies, thousands of years old, and they have this strange, clumpy white stuff smeared around their necks. I mean, what is that? For years, nobody had a clue. It was a total puzzle.
But then, modern science comes to the rescue. Thanks to DNA sequencing, we finally got the answer. That weird white stuff? It was 3,600-year-old cheese. Specifically, a type of Kefir cheese. You know, that tangy, fermented dairy stuff? It's basically like the probiotic yogurt drinks you see in stores today. It's amazing. Our ancestors were all about gut health long before it was a wellness trend.
And this gets even bigger. The DNA from the microbes in that cheese tells us that ancient nomadic groups were actually trading these cultures, these recipes, across huge distances. It was connecting people all across Eurasia. So this cheese wasn't just food. It was like a piece of technology, a way to connect with other groups.
Okay, so we've got our ancient artisan sourdough, we've got our probiotic cheese. What's next? What were they washing it down with? And what about the main course? Let's keep building this incredible menu.
So over in Egypt, archaeologists hit a different kind of treasure trove. Not gold, but pottery shards. Tens of thousands of them. They're called ostraca, and they were basically the sticky notes of the ancient world. People used them for everything, homework, to-do lists, you name it. And on some of these receipts, they found inscriptions about deliveries of high-quality wine. One even mentions the first delivery from the southern vineyard. So they weren't just drinking any old wine. These people were total connoisseurs.
But of course, diet wasn't always just about taste. It was also about fuel. I mean, what about the people doing the really hard physical labor? Well, over in Czechia, scientists looked at the bones of some 5,300-year-old miners. And using this amazing technique called stable isotope analysis, they could literally reconstruct their diet and figure out what they were eating to power through their workday.
And the results? Super clear. These miners who were doing back-breaking work every day had a diet that totally matched their energy needs. You can see it right here. Their bones showed they were eating a whole lot more meat than the average person living in the area. It makes perfect sense, right? It was a high-octane diet designed to fuel really tough, essential work.
So let's just step back and look at the big picture. We've got fermented bread in Turkey from over 8,000 years ago. We've got specific high-energy diets for workers in Czechia. We've got probiotic cheese being traded across China. And we've got vintage wine in Egypt. You start to see this incredible pattern of sophisticated food production that's spanning entire continents and thousands of years.
So what does this all mean when we go back to that idea of the First Supper? Well, it means we have to give our ancestors way more credit. They weren't just surviving, they were dining.
So here it is, the final menu, put all together. For our bread course, we have an ancient fermented loaf, a lot like a modern artisan sourdough. The cheese course, a Kefir-like creation, basically the granddaddy of today's probiotics. And a drink, a vintage wine from a very specific, high-quality vineyard. This wasn't a caveman's meal. No way! This was a foodie's meal.
And you know, that's really the heart of this whole thing. These incredible discoveries remind us that the people of the past were just people, like us. They had tastes, they had favorite foods, and they had this complex, amazing understanding of food that we're only just now starting to piece back together. So if you take away just a few things from this, what should they be? First, our ancestors were sophisticated foodies, not just simple survivalists. Second, that whole art of fermentation, it's an ancient global thing. And third, it's our modern science, things like DNA analysis and high-tech imaging that is literally our time machine to the past, letting us uncover these amazing stories.
And all this leaves us with one last, really tantalizing thought. This is just the menu we've managed to piece together so far. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other incredible ancient recipes are still out there, buried under the sand, just waiting to be discovered?